It's that first rough one of the season, folks. Last night's loss wasn't fun, but this feels like salt in the wound. This tells me that New York Mets baseball is back. Hello, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for chiming back in for the latest post-game show here on the channel. We got a lot to break into after a horrendous 5-4 loss to the Philadelphia Phillies, the 8th inning. Can we just get rid of the 8th inning, please? Can we just start by talking about that? Get rid of that damn inning. The Mets will be undefeated this season if 8th innings didn't exist. Unfortunately, that isn't the world we live in, but what we do live in is a Mets game that did not go right by any means after starting off so right at the same time. My goodness, guys. Before I get into anything, please make sure, again, through this grieving, I hope you guys enjoy the content. I'll be breaking down everything that transpired in this game per usual, especially for people who say did not watch the game or watch it fully. We got all the highlights there, at least all the positive ones for the Mets. I don't got all the negative in there because that would have been too much for me and the time. But we got a lot to break down. Smash that like and subscribe button as you guys are first chiming in, whether you're watching live or on replay on this one. Shout out to everybody here in the chat, to all my viewers, all my subscribers, all my members. Thank you guys all so much. I'll be answering your questions shortly. You know the drill. I know the chat's going to be heated for my people on live and for people in the comments and replay. I'm well aware. I know that the sky is falling. I get it. Let's get into it, though, because, oh, man. I just want to know, first and foremost, to everyone watching live right now, please let me know in the chat, how do you feel at this point in time? How do you feel after this loss? I'm sure it's not good. I know it's not good for me. I got to be honest with you. These are the type of losses where I'm going to have a complete lack of motivation to want to be doing these type of post games for you guys because I'm just miserable. Normally, as a baseball fan, I want to go to bed right away, forget about this game, and hope that they just rebound perfectly the next day. Unfortunately, that is not the case, and I'm still excited to get into this one. And there are positives to take away from this game. There definitely are, and there are definitely a lot of negatives to take away from this game too. It feels awfully similar to yesterday's game in the sense of we had positives and we had negatives. Unfortunately, a late inning, 8th inning blow up is what was the X factor in this one. Just bad taste in my mouth. Fern, we got Phillies fans here. I know. Congratulations to the Phillies. I'm only saying that because I know that I have genuinely nice Philly fans in here. Outside of that, that's all you're getting from me. Yeah, this was a tough one. Is it time for you to jump out of your parents' basement? Oh, E-dubs, that's cute. Oh, how sweet. Look, I love how people start to target me when the Mets don't do well. That's adorable. Let's see. Okay, so let's get into now, folks, what transpired in this game. Okay, well, let's start off with how we got here. Taijuan Walker looked like an absolute beauty to start this game. He pitched only 2 innings, gave up no hits, no runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts, 30 innings pitched. And the reason why he had 30 innings pitched is unfortunately because he irritated his right shoulder. So for us Mets fans that have been concerned about some of the pitching depth heading into the season because of the fact that Taijuan Walker, we didn't know exactly how ready he would be for this game. He, of course, had surgery back in mid-January, had like half of his kneecap broke, something along those lines. Was dealing with some soreness in spring leading into his first start. Pitched a bullpen the other day that we talked about in our pregame and series preview show earlier today, and it looked like he was ready to go. And he was, again, pitching an absolute gem, working the fastball so well, and then also getting nasty break on his off-speed pitches that really was catching the Phillies hitters off guard. He struck out quite literally Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and who am I blanking on? Not JT Realmuto. We did get a ground out on him, but also their other big hitter that I don't know why I'm just blanking on the moment. Nick Castellanos, there we go. But yeah, Walker looked fantastic, so I'm concerned for him because of the fact that he got down, given the fact that we don't know how serious this right shoulder irritation is. Is he going to be ready for his next start? Is he going to go on the IL? There's a lot of uncertainty with the Mets right now, and not just their pitching staff for the rotation, but their bullpen too. I'll be getting to the donation in a second. Thank you so much for that, buddy. But as we saw later in the game, before I get into all the positives on this, because again, there were positives in this game. We saw David Pearson come in and look great. I'll get into that in a minute. I want to break down his further numbers here. But again, the other negative, unfortunately, was Trevor May, who pitched perfectly fine in relief, but really looked discomforted. Really looked like he was hurting after he threw a pitch, and he was out for the game. So I don't know what Trevor May's status is. I don't know his injury at this point in time. If we find out post-game through Buck and the pressers, as you guys are watching on SNY and all that stuff, Please let me know in the chat. I hope we find out as soon as possible. But man, oh man, I'm concerned for Trevor May. That did not look good. And for Taijuan Walker, Ty's injury didn't look nearly to the same extent, of course, as May's. But again, you lose two key guys right now. We don't know if they're going to be out, if at all. But yeah, just not a good look. Not a good look at all for a Mets team that definitely needs more pitching. And speaking about pitching depth, we talked about Chris Paddack. We talked about Frankie Montas in a recent video. Chris Paddack got traded to the Minnesota Twins, and Frankie Montas looks like he's minutes to hours away from getting traded to the Chicago White Sox. So you can basically kick that one in the can in regards to two guys that would have made sense for the Mets. Both of them, yes, Frankie Montas is going to be worth a lot, so that trade makes sense. Chicago needs the help with the injuries that they currently have in their rotation. But the Mets, what are they going to do? What are the significance of these injuries? We will soon find out. But I'm going to address the donation, and then we'll go further, folks, because there are positives to take away from this game, and I do want to make sure that they do not get brushed under the rug because of this loss. Individual performances highlighted by David Pearson. He was the best star tonight. That cannot be diminished by any stretch. But thank you so much for the donation, my friend. Bullpen is a diaper hurricane. Bullpen definitely had its struggles today, and I definitely was not all that pleased with how I saw Buck Showalter manage things with his bullpen management today. Do I think it was absolutely horrendous? No, but I was not satisfied with what I saw from the pen today. And we'll expand on that further here in a second. Thank you so much for that donation, no less, buddy. I do appreciate that. But everybody, continue to let me know your thoughts in the chat. Like I said, I'm going to answer all your questions, comments, and concerns very soon. But Taijuan Walker, through those 30 pitches, let's hope, fingers crossed, that he will be okay and make his next start, or potentially just skip one start, because he looked damn good. That was the best Taijuan Walker just over a 2-inning span that we have seen in quite some time. Again, the velo was looking really strong, the fastball, and was working really, really well with the sinker and the off speeds. He was cooking. He was absolutely cooking. And the Mets were able to jump on Ranger Suarez in this game, who was down on his velo, was not really ramped up and ready to go for the season. He was rushed by their manager and Joe Girardi getting there for the start today, and he did not look good. He only went 3 innings, not even 3 innings fully, I believe, for the Phillies tonight. Mets again were able to jump, but yeah, he only pitched 2.2 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 runs, a walk. Mets did really well thanks to not just Ranger Suarez's struggles, when the Mets did not do well at all against Ranger Suarez for the entirety of last season. The southpaw is normally higher on his velo, better with his breaking pitches. That is not what we saw tonight against the Mets. Mets were able to execute, take advantage. The Mets got those early runs in this one. They got 3 runs in that first inning, and boy, oh boy, was that a fantastic start for the Mets. But unfortunately, as the Phillies were starting to go downhill when it came to pitching, because Suarez had to come out, their bullpen looked very strong coming in. Unfortunately, the Mets had that same issue, and David Pearson came in and looked great, but David Pearson was by far the highlight of this game for the Mets, guys. We're talking about someone who, one, came in kind of rushed to be a long reliever for the Mets. There was debating on how would he look. He was only on the roster today because Edwin Diaz is away with his family after the passing of his grandmother, so keep that in mind, because Pearson started the season originally on the taxi squad, but he comes in and he pitches 4 scoreless, 3 hits. He gave up 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He just looked great. And between, the start of the Mets pitching, the start of the Mets offense, and the piss poor defense by the Philadelphia Phillies, with Alec Boehm not having 1, not 2, but 3 errors, 3 throwing errors in this game. He looked like just an absolute ticking time bomb at the third base position. He even said mouth, and you saw it on TV, saying, I effing hate it here. I effing hate this place, in the sense of the fans booing and turning on him. So there was a lot going in the Mets' favor early in this game, even after Taijuan went down. But the Mets hitters, they were not able to get enough going after a hot start. The bullpen for the Phillies got hot because Nick Nelson only gave up 1 run in 4 innings. Very strong performance from the Phillies in their bullpen. And then, yeah, it just continued to squander down to gain to the 8th inning. But before we get there, I do just want to go over the Mets offensive numbers rather quickly before I break down things further. And then I want to get into the pitching arsenal, talk about the complete implosion in that 8th inning, and really what is next for the Mets now. But okay, Brandon Nimmo, 2 for 4 today, struck out there in the 9th, was not happy about that strikeout, but overall he did have a solid day at the plate. Loved how he hustled down the first baseline too, with a run scored. Starling Marte, 1 for 4, had himself a run scored, looked very strong, looked fantastic in right field. Francisco Lindor, 1 for 4 today, with himself a RBI, and that is because of James McCann stealing a base. Yes, James McCann stole a base tonight. He looked very good on the base pass. And so then Pete Alonso over 4 today. Not a good day at the plate, but Pete Alonso was tremendous with the glove tonight. I would like to acknowledge that for sure. Alonso, who had a piss poor day at defense, was in part the reason why the Mets lost yesterday in DC. Came back, and his defense was by no means the issue. If anything, it was in fact a plus for the Mets today at first base and at that position. Then we get into Eduardo Escobar, 1 for 3 with a run scored and an RBI and a walk. His first RBI as a New York Met. Love to see it. The Mets hit for opposite field all game long, at least earlier in the game, but they were not able to tack on more hits really after those first couple innings, and that ended up being their demise in part outside of course, blowing and giving up 5 runs at the 8th, which is just inexcusable. J.D. Davis, 1 for 3 at DH, had himself a walk in doing so today. A decent day at the plate. Wasn't happy with some of the pitches he was swinging through, but again, decent. Mark Canha, 1 for 4. Canha, who again has found himself looking very good this season to start off. Had an RBI in that first inning, 2 strikeouts of Canha. Still looking very strong to start the season. Very happy with what I've seen from him. Luis Gourmet, who was in place of Jeff McNeil, looked strong with the glove today. Turned some nice double plays. Did, however, mess up what should have been a better throw and a better turn in the 8th inning, which did not help the Mets today. So there were positives and some negatives with Gourmet today. And at the plate, there were no positives. He was 0 for 3 and a strikeout. Dom Smith pinched in the 9th. I'm not mad at him. He's coming off cold off the bench. It's going to happen. 0 for 1. James McCann 0 for 3 with that run scored and that stolen base. But getting into, guys, let's get into the 8th inning, okay? Because Trevor May out of this game. We saw, of course, the 8th start with Seth Lugo. After Lugo found himself, can't even speak for a second. Joely Rodriguez is who I was referring to first. Joely Rodriguez came in this one, and yeah, he unfortunately gave up a couple runs, as did Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo was in charge of things. Lugo just did not have it at all tonight. He did not look good. Lugo, I'm a little concerned about because Lugo, as we know, last season definitely had his struggles, did not start the season on time for the Mets, and found himself starting mid-season because of the surgery that he had from the previous offseason. And it felt like he would be good to start the season. Not a good outing tonight at all. He just could not locate it all. Down and away to Castellanos, who got on base and ended up getting the tying run for the Phillies in this one. And then, of course, Lugo gave up that absolute bomb. Was that to Lugo or was that Joely Rodriguez? No, I think that was Joely Rodriguez. I'm getting them confused right now. I know that JT Realmuto got himself a home run, and then there were a couple doubles that were hit that just continued the lead. So, yeah, unbelievably unfortunate. Lugo just simply was not able to locate at all tonight. And Joely Rodriguez, who does really well against lefties, but does not do that great against righties, was proven exactly that. Yes, he's the one who gave up that bomb to JT Realmuto, and that really is the one that made it a one-run game at that point. Then, of course, more doubles came, and then beyond that, it wasn't good, okay? That's all I got to say. This was not a good 8th inning. I did not like the fact that Buck had Joely Rodriguez in a situation to match up against someone like JT Realmuto. When you look at his numbers, he's far superior against lefties than he is righties. And then when you look at Seth Lugo again, Seth Lugo, I got to say, has good numbers against Rhys Hoskins. So the fact that that double happened the way it did was unfortunate. But again, Lugo just did not have it tonight. Joely wasn't good by any stretch. He was good against the lefties, struck out Harper. If you're a lefty, he's striking you out. But a righty, he just threw an absolute meatball right down the pipe to JT Realmuto. And that's inexcusable. We cannot be seeing stuff like that again. I really hope that Jeremy Hefner tries to really get things figured out on that front, facing righties for Joely's sake and for Lugo's sake. Lugo just needs to be better. This was just a piss poor performance. I did not like what I'm seeing at all. I mean, just there were positives in this game. There definitely were. I was very happy with what I saw from Taijuan Walker up until he got hurt, unfortunately. I was very happy with what I saw from David Pearson today. That's something that, unfortunately, is going to be overlooked because of how the Mets blew this one, folks. It's as simple as that. This is a tough loss. It's the first tough loss of the season. Yesterday's loss doesn't compare to this one, in my opinion. Yes, I know that they're both 8th inning collapses, but to give up 5 runs in the 8th inning is inexcusable. And then, of course, you give the save to, yes, your former New York Met for only a cup of coffee, who wasn't even that good with the Mets, and Brad Hand, and Dries Familia was warming up in the pen. So either way, this was not going in the Mets' favor. It was frustrating. But before I go further, everybody, and before I get closer answering your questions and all that fun stuff, I know there's going to be some pessimism for sure. I already see in the chat. I do want to talk about, for a second, again, how exactly the pitching looked with David Pearson, because he located really, really well tonight. And this is something that is going to be massive for the Mets, especially, God forbid, if Taijuan Walker does miss any time, if he does go on the IL or anything like that. The Mets are already lacking pitching depth right now. They need everyone on top of potentially acquiring a pitcher or two. I hope the Mets do that if they find themselves in the right position to do so. But Taijuan Walker, again, looked fantastic today. I just can't get over the four seam, the slider, the splitter was so good. I really, really hope that whatever happened with his shoulder today is nothing serious and we get him back soon, because he was making the Phillies bombers look absolutely silly. And if it wasn't for Taijuan getting hurt, if it wasn't for Trevor May getting hurt, the Mets 1,000% win this game. The Mets injuries is the reason why the Mets lost this game. Yes, you can gripe about the Mets not getting enough offense after a hot start to this one. I wholeheartedly agree with you guys, but the Phillies had absolutely dog shit offense until that 8th inning. So it's not something where it's like, oh my goodness, the Mets simply couldn't hit. No, the Mets were shutting the Phillies down this entire game. They also were benefiting from some piss poor defense by the Phillies too. Those things coincided absolutely, but more than anything, it's the fact that the Mets had two very important pitchers for them tonight get hurt at the wrong time, and then, in my opinion, fairly poor bullpen management by Buck Showalter tonight. I did not like those matchups, and that's really the first time this season where I'm really not satisfied with what I saw from Buck. Yesterday was a little controversial with Trevor Williams in that high leverage situation, but if Williams just got simple defense from Pete Alonso, he would have gone out of that inning unscathed yesterday in the 8th. Today, however, is a different discussion. I did not like those matchups. I think that's a fair criticism. But getting into David Pearson, guys, for a minute, he worked that 4-pitch arsenal. This needs to be noted absolutely. 34% of his arsenal tonight was with that changeup, topped out at 86. The minimum was 83 on the velo, and the average was 85. That's a mile per hour higher than we expect from someone like David Pearson. Almost 2 miles per hour higher even. Just looked very good. Four-seam fastball, 26 percentile usage tonight. 94 is where he topped out. 90 is the minimum, and 92.5 was the average. Right around the average for him, David. And then the sinker, 24% of his arsenal. You had him at 95 topping out, 91 on the minimum, and 93 on the average. And the slider, 16% of his arsenal night, 84 where he topped out, 76 minimum, and 91 on the average. So that's really, before we get into just a whole lot of negative comments in here, trust me, I know that's going to happen. I've been seeing it this entire time. The 3-batter rule is free. I agree the 3-batter rule is dumb. By the end of the day, I personally was not happy with Buck and his bullpen management today. If you think I'm going too hard on him, that's perfectly fine. That's what this discourse is about in these live streams, in these post games on the channel. We're all Mets fans. We have our opinions, regardless if we agree or disagree. I completely understand everyone's point of view, as long as it's a rational one, at least, not ones where it's like, oh my God, the season's over after this loss, because that is in fact not true. And I promise you guys that. But last thing I'll say on the positive note, David Pearson, Mets, if they get something working here with him in that changeup, I saw a report over the past week or so by Eno Saris over at The Athletic talking about how David Pearson really did look well through what we saw over in spring training, how he's working on his certain pitches, the off speed. Again, really, really liked what I saw from David Pearson tonight. So hoping that continues for him. We get more consistency, and he could be a Swiss Army knife for the Mets as a long reliever out of that pen throughout the season, assuming that the Mets will not need him to be a starter or feel that he is deserving of being a starter in the near future. So let's talk about the negatives, because again, that's going to take up the majority of the conversation. But before I get to your comments, this is where I'm going to cut people off on replay. So again, shout out all you guys. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button again if you guys are enjoying the coverage. Mets lost a heartbreaker tonight, 5-4. Let's hope that they bounce back tomorrow. Will Wheeler on the mound facing off against Tyler McGill. Former Met versus current Met. One's on the rise, and one is looking to potentially win the Cy Young this year. So a lot of things are going to happen tomorrow. Hopefully a victory. I'm excited to get into that post game. Hopefully again after a W. But for people on replay, which is none of you guys in the live stream right now, this is where I'll be cutting things off. So make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys again very soon.